The Burial. It's on Amazon. It's free to Prime subscribers. It's an Amazon original. It stars Tommy Lee Jones, Jamie Foxx, Journey Smollett, Alan Ruck, and Bill Camp. And this is based on a true story. This is something that Amazon sent around to at least one film festival, because I did see it pop up with some early reviews and some early buzz. It's been fairly well received so far. I believe it has like a 75 Metacritic score. It has a pretty decent IMDb score. This thing's been pretty well received. It's just a really tough Oscar season. It's really, a lot of films this year have kind of been blowing people away. So, will The Burial stand out and be able to make its footprint in this year's Oscar race? Let's talk about it. Probably not. I did like this film. I actually made a choice because I wanted to be able to criticize the audio description without knowing who it was. I just, in case it was somebody that I knew, I didn't want it to affect anything. I was afraid that if I knew what the voice was, that I would be like, I don't know what I would want to say. So I backed out. I don't know who narrated this. But the film, basically what it is Tommy Lee Jones plays a funeral director who owns 7 funeral homes and an insurance company, or 8 funeral homes and an insurance company. I lost track. I think it's 7 and then 1. So I think he owns 8 different things. One of them is a funeral insurance company. And he owns them all just sort of in like southern Mississippi, like Biloxi area. And they've been passed down generation to generation. He's 75 and plans on passing them on to his 13 children. His wife is played by Pamela Reed, by the way. And that was a name that was a blast from the past for me. That's the actress who plays Arnold Schwarzenegger's partner in Kindergarten Cop. I don't know. She's probably done 1,000 things. She will always be that for me. That is how many times I've seen Kindergarten Cop. I love that movie. So Pamela Reed was not who I was thinking was in that role. I was like, is this Sissy Spacek? Looked on IMDb. I was like, oh my god, Pamela Reed is still acting. Good for her. So Tommy Lee Jones and Pamela Reed, they have a lot of back and forth discussions about their finances. The catalyst for the whole thing is that there's a state, like a government oversight committee that comes in and notices that Jones doesn't have enough in his account to be able to operate the insurance company. So it looks like he's going to start losing out on things, and if he's not more solvent in terms of his cash flow, he will lose his license. So he's looking for a solution, and his friend / lawyer, played by Alan Ruck, proposes that he sell to this corporation that's going around and buying up funeral homes, because that sounds like a thing to do. And that corporation is headed by Bill Camp. And when they go up there and they talk, they come to an agreement with a nice handshake. We see the conversation, and he talks about drawing up a contract. And it seems like everybody's made a deal. They want to buy 3 of the however many funeral homes in the state, and from this guy, and it'll give him enough money to keep the other ones open, so at least he'll have something to pass on to his kids. And it seems like everything's copacetic until the deal never comes through, and the money that he was hoping on never happens. and he ends up losing his license, and he finally decides to sue the company for breach of contract, even though they technically didn't sign the contract on their end. This big billion-dollar company is holding this little town hostage, and part of it is that along the way they picked up this younger attorney, Hal, who believes that the rich guys are stringing along the little guy because they know that he's in a somewhat dire situation. So if he loses everything and goes into bankruptcy, that they can come along and pick up these funeral homes for even less than what they would have paid for to begin with. So they're trying to make him lose his chain of funeral homes, which Tommy Lee Jones is not having. So Hal is also apparently watches Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous on VHS. That was one of the things I thought was a little funny. I was like, all right, dude. So he brings in a Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous episode on VHS, and they watch. This takes place in the 90s. It's a little weird. It's not that weird because it would have been the time period for Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, but come on, dude. You got it on V. Anyway, he sees this attorney in Florida, Willie Gray, played by Jamie Foxx, who seems to be doing quite well for himself. Hal's done his research. He hasn't lost a case in 12 years. He is incredibly successful. He has a giant home. Later on in the movie, you'll see that his mother has a giant home. He has a house with like 50 rooms or something like that. It's a huge mansion. And he's basically a personal injury lawyer that wins big every time. He's got a firm with other partners, and they go in and they close. And we see, not only does the film open with him in church speaking, but also we see him in court and what he brings to his closing argument in a different case, where he basically admits that his client is a loser, but even with all that, he still had the right of way, you know. And the jury's like, like, you don't have to like the guy. I admit, we admit all of these things, but here's the one fact you can't change: this. And he wins an absurd amount of money, considering the situation that he just argued. So it's a great role for Jamie Foxx. It's a great role for Tommy Lee Jones. Jamie Foxx needs a little bit of convincing before he can join the case. And once he does, then he starts committing himself fully, even though he doesn't always make the best choices. He's not really a contract law person, so he's trying to bring his flair to this case. And he butts heads with Alan Ruck a lot. And the trial is pretty interesting from there on out. So I don't want to spoil anything, even though this is based on a true story. This story was written up in the New Yorker, and that's how they decided to make a movie. Is they read the article and decided this sounds like it would be a good movie, and they made it. So kudos. The reason to watch this definitely would be the performances. Jamie Foxx is just on fire. When I saw the reviews for this, pretty much everybody was saying that, and I thought maybe he'd be a dark horse contender for Best Actor this year. I don't think so. It is a boisterous performance, and he even has Oscar moments. He even has moments that I could see them taking the clip and running it. You know, when they show his nomination and they show that they're like Jamie Foxx from The Burial, and they show that little like clip from the film. He's got that in this film. He has those Oscar moments. But his character kind of is the same way for pretty much the whole film. He just gets more committed, but he's still this sort of the same level of intensity pretty much the whole film. He has like one moment where he just kind of sits and ponders life, but it doesn't really seem to, he doesn't really change. His character is kind of like the same, and we see that he goes on to sort of, at the end when it tells you like what else he's doing, we see that he's still tilting at windmills, basically. He's still going after mega corporations, like he's made this his thing. So, he gets the thrill out of it. Jurnee Smollett comes in as the attorney on the other side. I thought she did a fine job. The problem is I just saw Monica Raymond play almost a very similar performance in the King Mutiny Court Martial, and I thought Monica Raymond just was incredible. She just floored me. And Jurnee I like her. I think she's great, but this would not be her best performance from me. This would not be the one that I would push her for. I think it's hard for her to... Jamie Foxx is just doing so much here. It's really hard for her to match that, even though she tries a lot. Jamie Foxx just kind of steals this whole movie, even from Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones is just kind of in a Tommy Lee Jones' role. It's very sort of like a Southern country, old man, kind of stuck in his ways type of person. Feels very much like that. And Tommy, I haven't seen it. I can't even remember the last time I saw Tommy Lee Jones in a movie, but he's good in this. This is something that is right up his alley, and I can see why they cast him in this. But it's still Jamie Foxx's show. It's the Jamie Foxx show. He's all over this movie, and it's his dynamic speeches that sell the product. Bill Camp is pretty good. He has a couple of moments that are worth watching, and Alan Ruck has a couple of scenes that are actually pretty impressive, considering I still think of Alan Ruck as the guy from Spin City, so pretty much everything he's done since then has just kind of surprised me and wowed me, because I just keep remembering his character from Spin City and being like, wow, that dude can act? That guy? Really? So, yeah, it's weird how we get an opinion of somebody and that kind of just stays with us. We've seen a lot of these types of films. It feels very much like a John Grisham film being adapted for the screen, the John Grisham book being adapted for the screen. But it's not. It's just a New Yorker article. But it's funny how much it feels like that. It feels very much, if you read John Grisham, this feels very much like a John Grisham book. It feels like exactly the thing that he would have written. He probably could have punched up the screenplay, to be honest. It would have felt a little bit more... probably directed better in certain scenes. I think the director here makes choices. I don't necessarily always agree with them. I realize that she probably feels tethered to the original ideas, like what actually happened, and she can't stray too far away from that. But there are certain things that are brought up. There's a deal that they catch that the corporation has made with an organization that represents black churches, and you feel like that this is going to be like the huge crux of the film, and that this is going to change everything, and that there's going to be this huge turn in the movie. And I was kind of really disappointed where they went with that, because they only just sort of briefly use it after they introduce it rather heavily by going around and interviewing people who were affected by it. It sort of feels like an Aaron Brockovich moment, but then it feels like if Aaron Brockovich learned that the water was gross and then just didn't do anything about it and just was like, oh, all right. And then just kind of like maybe casually mentions it at some point. You know, this is like, by the way, the water sucks. It it just becomes such like an afterthought in this case. And it felt like we were headed in a direction. Like once we got there, it felt like, oh, this is where the movie's going to change. It also feels like that's about the time when Jamie Foxx's character would also be making a significant change in his characterization. And I didn't really feel that from him. And Jamie has more range than that. But Jamie just this dude just kind of is the same. He just barrels on through. And it's a great character and it's a great personality. But I feel like they set up something and just didn't deliver on the promise. Now to talk about the audio description and why I wasn't a fan. I just wasn't a fan of the narrator. I think the written audio description is really good. There's a scene that where they're trying to negotiate a settlement, and they keep passing around sheets of paper and everybody keeps looking at it, but you never know what the number is. And it isn't revealed until it's dropped in the dialogue what the numbers are that they're turning down, because of how confident they are in their ability to win. I think that's like the point of the scene. But at the same time, at first I was like, why don't we know what the numbers are? And I was like, oh, because they're probably going to tell us. This is exactly what happened. So I appreciated the fact that it wasn't ruined in audio description, even if I'm assuming we couldn't see the numbers, because that was probably like a directorial choice, was to have it to where you just sort of see these little slips of paper being passed around. And then just all of a sudden somebody was like, your turn down that, you know? And then you finally figure out what it is. So I think that's what that was. And so I'm not saying that the audio description is bad at all. It's just that the audio description narrator was so bright and cheerful for a courtroom drama slash, I don't want to say thriller, I'll say suspense. There's suspense with a courtroom drama because you don't know how it ends. Unless you bother to like look up the whole thing before you watch the film or just know a lot about the case. Not everybody would know necessarily how the ruling was, or what it's going to end up being, and what's going to happen. And there was a lot of optimism that came out of this voice, and it almost took the seriousness out of the film, a film that was already sort of walking a fine line because of how showboaty Jamie Foxx's lawyer is. It's a very big character that takes up a lot of space and a lot of room. And I just needed the audio description to be toned down a lot. I needed somebody who was a lot flatter, a lot more serious. This film needed that level of audio description. It reminded me a little bit of Till, which had a lighter audio description to it. And I debated a lot about Till and whether or not that was appropriate for the film. And there are points in Till where you will feel like it's not the right, but when you see overall what it's trying to say and what the message that it's trying to achieve, then you kind of realize maybe that was the right choice. So I was trying to be accepting of this voice throughout the course of the film, but it never sat right for me. And that's why I didn't want to look at it because the narrator, because it's like, if I know who this person is, and if I'm saying something about them and I'm saying they shouldn't have been hired, but I have to be honest, and that's the problem about knowing too many narrators is, I'm now in this weird place. So I just didn't look. I didn't look because that was the biggest thing for me was, it felt like it was putting too much levity. It was too nice. It made it too upbeat. It almost felt like it was changing the context of the film and making it into like some sort of lighthearted film when it should be, attacking a corporation that is making money off of people dying. Like this guy Bill Camp's character literally says that the reason why he wants to own all the funeral homes is because he sees that the baby boomers are coming, and they're going to be dying, and he's going to be making a ton of money. So, of course, it's weird for Bill Camp to be saying that, because I'm like, dude, do you know how old you are? I don't know if you're going to be able to enjoy all of that money. You fall into the category in which... Anyway, so yeah, it is a little bit... I needed something that was a little bit more serious. The film feels like it's like a Dark Water / Promised Land type movie, Just Mercy. You know, there were these films that were released that are all sort of like legal-ish dramas, maybe like whistleblower type dramas, that all opened around Oscar season that ended up not getting Oscar nominations. That's what I'm going to group it in with, because that's where I think The Burial is going to land. And all of those had a very serious tone, and what they uncovered was like a deeper truth. And this film definitely does uncover a deeper truth. It's just the director chooses to do very little with it. So I would have definitely gone a different way in terms of hiring the narration. I could definitely list some narrators off the top of my head. I'm just not going to do that. Whose voices I think would have fit this appropriately. It's just too upbeat for me. I'm sorry, whoever you are, I love you, and I'm appreciative of having audio description, but it was bothering me a lot during the course of this film. How incredibly upbeat the narration was for the content of this film. It felt like it was fighting the tone of the film. I didn't feel like this film was nearly as funny as the tone of the narration thought it was. So, yeah, it could have benefited from a different narrator. I hate to say that, but overall, I think this is a strong movie. I think it's carried a lot by the actors' performances, and just by the fact that the story itself is interesting. I don't agree with all of the choices that the director makes, but on my own personal list, it's possible that Jamie Foxx might be in my top 10 best actor performances of the year. I thought he was incredible. It's funny that he went through his own medical drama this year, and he gave 2 really memorable performances with They Clone Tyrone and The Burial. Actually, somewhat similar performances, but they're different enough that it doesn't feel like it's the same thing, like it's a shtick or something that's going on. He does enough with both of them. I would have appreciated if the director had pushed Jamie a little bit more. He is an Academy Award winner. Give him that emotional breakdown, you know, and more character growth. And I think the film really would have soared. But otherwise, it was really nice to see Tommy Lee Jones, Pamela Reed, Jerry Smollett, Bill Camp. I mean, Alan Ruck. This is a great cast. So show up for the actors and the story. The director, I don't know her, so I'm not familiar with anything she's done before. And it's, you know, is what it is. But I'll give The Burial a B+. Carried a lot by the actors' performances. So there's some really tremendous scenes in here with Jamie Foxx that are totally worth watching. And I feel like you could cut easily 10-15 seconds and just show somebody that, and they would just assume Jamie Foxx deserved whatever nomination he just got. They'd be like, yeah, of course, that feels like I would have nominated that based on that clip. Absolutely. So just getting this in front of voters' eyes is going to be can they do that? So in order for him to get, I don't know. Feels weird to say that I think the most thing that he'll get is maybe some award that is designated specifically only for black actors, which is also a theme in this film, that they are literally chosen because they need a black lawyer. Willie is chosen because they need a black lawyer. It's a 75% black county in which the trial is being chosen, and then when the other side realizes that they choose Journey Smollett. So these two people, and they openly discuss this, by the way. This is in the film. This is not me just playing and being like, I see these themes, I see what you're doing. They actually bring it up. They confront it head on. They're like, this is what this is, right? Yeah, this is what this is. So I like that they just like openly addressed it and called it out for being what it was. So yes, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And I also have a website, MacTheMovieGuy.com. You can follow me on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called now, Instagram or Threads at MacTheMovieGuy. You can go to the Audio Description Project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what is audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. It'll let you know who is narrating your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I will watch something else and see you guys on the other side.